from this point on, we are trying some really heavy hitters. And I don't just mean flavor-wise that these are going to be really punchy whiskeys. I mean the ABV goes up significantly starting with this one. The other two, I think, the Lefroy and the Bowmore that we had are decent scotches to start your night off with. If we're talking about ABV content alone, 40 and 43%. We really step things up with this one. This is 54.2% or 108.4 proof. So a big jump. You can taste it a lot. If you need to have an intro drink, you know, if you don't want your mouth to be assaulted, now's probably a good time to do that. Pause the video, go have some lower ABV scotch or whiskey or whatever, warm yourself up to this one, because I think going into this cold without having acclimated your palate to alcohol at all is going to rob you a little bit of the experience, and it'll make it harder to pick up some of the notes, and that would be a waste of some really good whiskey. So get yourself acclimated, come back and try some of this, and with that being said, let's get into it. Hi everybody, welcome to the third of the 5 tastings we're going to be doing of Peated Islay scotches. I'm really excited about today's because it's from a distillery that is one of my favorites. I think they make some consistently great product in their core lineup. It's one that most of you should be familiar with already because we had the entry-level version of this whiskey in the Advent calendar, and it is probably my favorite peated scotch in any distillery's core lineup, or maybe in general. I don't know. I'm talking about Ardbeg, and the bottle we're going to be trying today is the Ardbeg Uigeadail. I think Ardbeg is probably, this is arguable because I don't know how you measure this stuff, but I think Ardbeg and Lefroy are probably the 2 best known distilleries for being famous for making really good peated scotch. There are others that make a lot of good peated scotch. We're trying a bunch of them here, but I think Ardbeg and Lefroy are probably the 2. If you think about peated scotch, you probably think first of one of those 2 distilleries. And you know, personally, I think Ardbeg's flavor profile, it doesn't lean as heavy into medicinal notes as Lefroy does. I don't think any scotch really does lean that heavily into them as Lefroy, but the flavors are, in my opinion, bolder, less subtle, and a little bit more complex than some of the stuff we got from the Bowmore 12. Ardbeg's one of my favorites. I like all their stuff, but this Uigeadail might be my absolute favorite, so let's dive into it. When I first tried this whiskey, probably about 2 years ago now, I came away with like a sweet bacon note, both on the nose and on the palate. And coming back to it now, I do pick up a little bit more of the peaty, grassy, medicinal sort of notes that we got in the Lefroy, not nearly to that extent. But there is that like charred meat sort of smokiness to the nose as well. I think that might almost be a little bit more immediate. Yeah, and the longer this sits in the glass, the more I smell it, the more I pick up on that. And to me, that's just heaven. Like having that in a whiskey, dang. If I was into cigars, I imagine this would be a really good one to smoke with a cigar. Oh, but I get that. It's the last 2 whiskeys we had, obviously they had some smoke. You know, the Lefroy and the Bowmore, they were both smoky from the peat, and that presented in different ways. This one I think presents in a very different way too, because the other ones were both sweet, I think, at their base. So there was definitely the sweet fruitiness with the Bowmore, and then like that sweet grass medicinal note. Maybe that was a little bit bitter at times, that medicinal note, but there was still like an underlying sweetness in the Lefroy. With the Uigeadail, it's all savory, it's all umami, and I really dig that. All right, let's give it a taste. Oh man, it's like smoky butter in your mouth. It's so good. Oh, tasting it and then nosing it again, it makes all the difference, I think. Like having both of those going on at the same time, and yeah, it just makes the nose that much better. The smoke and that, like, again, smoked bacon sort of note comes through a lot more for me after tasting it. A little bit of the medicinal or sort of grassy like flavor, more kind of in the side palate. But just straight down, it's smoke, it's savory, it's salty a little bit too. Yeah, especially the finish, actually. I'm picking up on, I wouldn't say briny, maybe briny. Maybe like a seaweed sort of bitterness, like a hint of it. But still really savory. Supposedly, that's because while they're aging, you know, for 10, 12, you know, however many years on the coast, that they pick up some of that from the barrels and from the sea air that's, I wouldn't say exposed through the cask, but it still picks up that quality, supposedly. And I think I do get a little bit of that on the finish with this one. Oh, now that I say that, I think I get a little bit of it on the nose too, almost like this salty, like briny, maybe not briny. I don't pick up like any like seafoody, fishy sort of smell, not at all. It's not what I'm trying to say. It's more like a breeze off the ocean when it's not low tide, you know? So you're not getting that gross seafood sort of, you know, decaying fish smell, but you are getting that salty air. It just feels a little different. The breeze is a little different. I absolutely love this whiskey. I should probably shut up now because there's not like a whole lot more that I could say about it other than just gushing over the same notes that I already gave you. I really enjoy it. I certainly hope you did too. If you do, most people who enjoy Ardbeg in general, they don't gravitate toward this particular one, the Uigeadail. So Ardbeg, they have a few, I think their core range has like 5 or 6 in it now. One of them is unattainable. I think it's a 25-year-old that if you can even find it in a store, it's hundreds of dollars, if not over $1,000. So excluding that one, I think they have 5 in their core range. They have the Ardbeg 10, which was in the Advent calendar. They have the 5-year-old Wee Beastie, which is a more recent addition. It's 5 years old, like it says. My understanding is that you taste the youth a little bit more in that, which usually isn't a positive thing when you're talking about whiskey. And I think it's only like $5 or $10 less usually than the 10. So I've just never opted to go for it when I could just pay 5 or 10 more and get the Ardbeg 10, which is great. And then there's a non-age stated whiskey that they make called Ono, which again I hear is fairly comparable to the 10. Some like the 10 better, so I've never paid the extra money to get the Ono. And then we get to the higher ABV, which is the Uigeadail that we just tried. And then the one that most people go to for being the best Ardbeg in the core range is the Corrie Vrecken. So as you can see, it looks exactly like the Uigeadail as far as the bottling goes. It's just different names, the Corrie Vrecken. This one to me tastes a little bit more artificial, sort of chemically, and leans more into the medicinal sort of band-aidy notes. Well, that, I mean, it sounds like I'm shitting on it, but no, I really like this whiskey. I like the Corrie Vrecken an awful lot. It lacks a little bit of that umami that I think we got from the Uigeadail. So most people, if they're rating Ardbegs, they actually put the Corrie Vrecken up higher than the Uigeadail. But for me, the Uigeadail takes it, and you can usually get it for like 10 or 20 bucks cheaper than the Corrie Vrecken. And both of these whiskeys, you know, most stores that you go to around here, they're going to range anywhere from like 100 to 130, I think. There are places you can find them online for a lot cheaper than that, though. Well, maybe not a lot, but you can find them cheaper online in my experience. So that's what I usually try to do. So yeah, if I didn't mention, I don't think I did, this is non-chill filtered. I believe there's no color added because it's fairly light, lighter than the 10 and 12-year-olds that we've tried so far. That didn't say that they had no color added, so pretty sure it doesn't, although it is non-age stated, so who knows. But non-chill filtered, and I think that's one reason we're able to get so much of that flavor. I love this one, absolutely. Can't sing its praises enough. might be the one that I like the best out of all 5. Don't know, haven't tried the other 2, so I guess we'll see. Hope you liked it. I'm gonna finish this off with pleasure. Hope you do too. Cheers.